welcome back. Welcome in John's Comics with Kids YouTube channel. And it's a very special live stream we got going tonight. I don't normally have many comic book creators on my channel. Usually they have to fall into one of two categories, either someone I think is a friend or someone I have faith in their work. Tonight, it's both. I got two creators that I'm going to be chatting with tonight that are a massive part of our comic book community. And for me in particular, a huge part of the experience I've had in the comic book community, collecting, making YouTube, being on Instagram. These guys have really been hugely supportive of me and the girls since day one. And I'm just really grateful they're taking a little time to hang out with us tonight. They were some of the first comic book creators to reach out to me, to talk to me about comic book creation, to give me advice, to hang out with the girls. The girls and I have hung out with these guys in person, gotten to meet them, gotten to chat about everything outside of comics as well. Even if that stuff's not as important as comic books, we still talked about all that stuff. So tonight, we're going to be talking about their first published work. Right, this is exciting stuff. They've got a Whatnot published comic book that's coming to your LCSs this summer. Pre-orders are already out there. You can use Previews World. There's links down below in the description. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about our friends, Comic Tom and Fire Guy Ryan.
Hello.
Hey.
Good day, sir. It's so cool to be here. We love you, John.
What's happening, guys?
Not that part out.
What's that?
I slept at your house.
It's true.
You did. Yeah, in Charlie's room.
Unsupervised. You didn't even know I was coming over. And I was just like, hey.
All of a sudden he was just there.
Right? What's for breakfast?
Yeah. I've got photographic evidence. This is real.
You have that ready. Oh my God, look at that picture.
I got this one too. There's
Hey, that's us.
That's Tom and the girls. That's the very first Comic-Con the girls ever went to. This was CaliCon.
That's a much better picture.
Sitting in a hallway reading comics.
Yeah, we're just chilling, yo. We're at a convention trying to enjoy some comic books, and you have, shout out to Kate and Charlie.
Yeah, man. So huge thank you to you guys. Just the joy that I have in this comic book community. It all started with finding guys like you, Tom, Reggie, Bueller. I mean, it's just absolutely been a real pleasure, and I appreciate all the support and kindness that you keep showing me and the girls.
Well, hey, you know what? You're part of the fam, and we appreciate all the work you do. For those of you who don't know, John is a low-key, like, behind the scenes member of the team, helping us with like YouTube stuff. And you've been around for a long time supporting what we do since the early days, since before we had like 1,000 subscribers. So
before you were John's Comics with Kids.
True.
When I was just hanging out in the chat as John Jameson.
Exactly.
Absolutely. But you know what? We've actually brought something special because you're one of our favorite YouTube channels, especially community channels. And we have a trailer that we made, and we were hoping that we could debut it here for you and your audience and the comic fam.
Yes. So I want to remind everybody the code for Previews World's right here and down below. So check out this new trailer. We're going to drop us out and you guys can enjoy.
No one has seen this before.
First time. World premiere.
World premiere is happening right here, comic fam. Light up the chat. Enjoy Crashdown.
Beyond our home on Earth is now possible thanks to our galactic research scouting team and advancements in suspended animation and cryotechnology. With the sun's demise imminent, we are now 72 hours from departure for planet Empyrean. With a 95% chance for Earth-like conditions, your efforts will be vital for the successful continuation of our species. On behalf of the entire human race, we here at Apollo Industries thank you for your service. With the dramatic increase in solar radiation, 95% chance for Earth-like conditions. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Thank you.
Dude, that's so freaking cool.
Thank you so much, John. I appreciate that. We're
nice
so hyped.
you. Bye, everyone.
Adios.
Yeah.
No, that was great. No, I'm super excited. I'm super hyped about it. We're having so much fun. It is a wild ride to go from writing stuff to seeing it not just in comic form, but then to have some of members of our team offer their creativity and bring it to life in unique marketing ways that I, since the beginning of starting this channel, wish would happen in comic books. I'm hoping that we can really get some eyes on the industry beyond our book and also show like, hey, there's a way that we can get comic books out there. We just have to show them to people and introduce them to people, you know?
Right. And shout out to Ben Templesmith. Those of you that are 30 Days of Night fans will recognize that he slayed this. Absolutely amazing.
All the interior art by him and the letters too.
Indeed.
And covers, certain covers.
Shout out to the chat, everybody. Thanks for coming by. We'll try to throw in some questions from you all as we go along. We're going to be discussing this whole thing. So I'm going to force this on Ryan. Ryan, can you give me the pitch here? What
you guys collaborate to?
I wanted you on the spot.
Yep, I can see that.
What is Crashdown?
What is Crashdown?
Simplistically about?
Well, it's a 3-issue horror sci-fi comic.
More simple, Ryan.
More simple.
Like I'm a 5-year-old.
Comic book. Pictures and words with a lot of tentacles. And people don't make it out alive.
That's the big three, right? Pictures, words, and tentacles.
That's all you need.
There you go.
That's all you need. But no, it's a horror story about the far future on planet Earth when the sun has turned red and life on Earth is now no longer an option. So,
which is a real thing, by the way. That's going to happen eventually. It's going to be a really long time from now, but
in our sci-fi universe, it's happening way quicker than people had expected. So now our only hope is to evacuate the planet and find other planets out in the galaxy that can sustain life. So we are going to follow one ship full of a whole bunch of colonists who make it to this planet Empyrean. And our story will go over what happens when they get to that planet and go down to the surface. And everything goes great.
Well, you sold Rob Worst on it. He says, stop. You had me at tentacles. Done.
Yep.
He's good.
Oh,
He's
we
good.
got Rob. It's Not Near Mint.
Not Near Mint. Rob Worst.
Oh,
yeah.
shout out, my brother. I love your show, man. You do some fun stuff.
He absolutely does. So it sounds to me, and maybe Tom can help me guide me here. This sounds like a survival story in some ways, right? This like foreign place survival at the edge of the world kind of thing.
Absolutely. You know, it's we're big horror fans, dystopian future, and fans of those types of narratives. And when we have someone like Ben who is ready to draw our craziest ideas, it's just we just kind of want him to run loose with it, you know. Lovecraftian.
Yeah,
that's something when we talked to Ben about first doing this book, and he was like, "I don't like drawing like horses or cars and stuff." There were a couple things.
We got a list.
We're not doing this, and we're not doing this. So like,
check,
okay, well,
check.
You can't do that horse car horror comic that we've had cooking for years. Now we gotta scramble to think of some new thing.
I mean, in the early days when I was kind of pitching him ideas, this is before Ryan was ever involved. You know, this was a comic idea that I thought I was going to be doing just myself, maybe Kickstarter at the most. I never thought we'd get a publisher backing it. I never thought we'd be in Previews magazine. You know, I never thought we'd be doing a San Diego Comic-Con drop like we're going to do in July. Comic comes out on July 5th. And one of the early ideas I had was like something that incorporated like large cats, because I'm a big cat fan of cats, obviously.
Same.
So I'm like, oh, that could be kind of cool, right? Like dystopian giant cats.
So they're not going to ride horses; they'll ride cats.
I know, and there was a part of it that was like, as I was coming up with the idea, I'm like, oh, geez, it's getting dangerously close to Dune. You know, like is there a substance the cats have that we need to collect? Like I don't know, I was kind of getting weird with it. But Ben's just like, he says, Tom, I don't want to draw a cat. I do not like drawing cats. And I'm like, oh, I'm changing this up. But no, we went more dystopian sci-fi horror because we have, you know, the first thing that I thought of is I want to write a story that captures my love for alien and body horror. And then Ryan and you love Lost. Like I've never met somebody who's like Lost or a show as much. So I'm a big fan of Lost, not as much as this guy or this guy, you know, both of these guys, but we've somehow managed to like take the best of both worlds and combine it into like one story. You know, we're going to follow a very isolated moment in time where we're just going to see like the first 48 hours of these individuals' experience. But we're also offering a lot of character development that takes you into the past, because this is all interesting stuff, you know, where we have the world, Earth ending at one point. And what does that society look like? What does it feel like to watch individuals go to another planet to keep the human civilization going while others can't go? So there's like these like pocket stories that we're going to be inserting throughout this large idea we have.
The more we think about this, the more ideas like that pop up, and it's like, well, can we get a fourth issue? Can we tell more of the story somehow? There's different ways. It keeps opening up new avenues of storytelling, and we are right now doing this 3-issue series about after they leave Earth, but like there's a whole pre-story that we are both kind of obsessing over in our heads that we want to do too.
Comic books in
Nice.
the house.
Hey, Butch.
Butchie, what's up, bud? Well, because so I was hoping we could spend a second on. You mentioned these characters. Can someone talk a little bit about the main characters? I'm sure there's a whole cast of characters, but maybe one or two of these main characters. What we can understand a little bit about them. What's motivating them to go on this trip? Well, what skills are they bringing to the table?
Sure, we can get into a little bit. Let's
excited to
talk
get
about
into it
Allison.
more.
We can talk about Allison a little bit because we have a character clearly featured on our covers who looks. I can't say for legal reasons that she looks like Anya Taylor-Joy, but
There's a resemblance.
there's a resemblance.
Coincidental resemblance.
Totally coincidental, and it's not. But she looks like Anya Taylor-Joy. So, we're gonna follow a crew of people, but we're gonna focus in on Anya for this run.
He means Allison.
I just did it. We're gonna
writing it too.
we're focusing in on Allison in this run. She is, it's kind of like we're trying to strike a balance with this first scout group is the first group going to the planet to like see how things are going and to also prep the rest of the cargo and the rest of the individuals to have a safe landing, kind of prep everything when they get down there. And it's going to go, obviously, according to the trailer, it's going to be a ruckus. But also like these individuals are not relatable, right? I mean, these have to be scientists. These have to be soldiers. These have to be doctors, like individuals that you need on landing in case anything goes wrong. So we wanted to develop a character that is relatable. And the best way we could come up with it was that she's insanely smart and she's a botanist. And she's going to go down there as like an integral part of this journey. And she's going to go down there with her husband. And her husband's name is Steve. So we're going to follow their journey closer than anyone else's, at least in these issues here for now.
Similar to Lost, there are multiple characters in this comic. You may start by focusing on one of them, but as the story evolves, we spend more time with the rest of these people. And there will be a few flashbacks peppered throughout this story because we have to. How can you not? Exactly. So yeah, while we may focus on Allison, we will definitely be coming to know the other characters who survive the crash landing, and obviously won't spend much time on the ones who don't, without spoiling too much. But yeah,
but it is. I know the genre you guys talked a lot about was feeling like Whatnot Publishing needed a good horror comic. Obviously, like there's sci-fi elements here at play, but this is a genre comic, right? This is a horror, violent. I saw tentacles and blood in that trailer. There's some violence here.
Oh yeah,
it was definitely a authentic and real reaction because when we went down to Denver last year, we were invited down by Whatnot to cover the launch of Whatnot Publishing. So we actually did the first interviews with Michael Calero and JPG of Ninja Funk and Kevin Rodatelli of Whatnot Publishing, the Alpha Betas crew and Quested crew. Even got to chat with the Exiled crew. Wesley Snipes wasn't there, but it was the creative team. And we interviewed a lot of people and we actually got the ash can that day. And so we didn't know what we were going to be hit with. All we knew was a little bit about the synopsis, and we got there and we were given this ash can that only had a few pages of each book. So Ryan and I got there and we're all stressing and getting ready for this podcast and trying to deliver on it because that's why we were there. And then we read this ash can and we didn't know what we were going to think. And we're not about to BS on the mic. If we didn't like something, we weren't going to like spend a whole lot of time getting excited about something we didn't like. So it was a little nervous, because they want us there covering it, but also we're not there to like shill something. So to our benefit, these were excellent. Each one of these previews of the comic were exciting. They drew me in. The art was unique, and I was laughing at Alpha Betas. I was excited to read Quested as an ongoing series. I was hyped to see a Wesley Snipes lookalike going berserker in the comic book pages, and of course Ninja Funk, which is JPG, and it was wild, and there was no text, but it was loud and vibrant, and I knew there was something special because they were talking about the music that they were making to accompany the book. So I was getting some like, what's the furthest place from here vibes a little bit with some of these.
Okay.
Or We Live, for example, where you're listening to music that was curated for the book and experiencing and being in the world, which by the way, that's what Ninja Funk is like. You got to listen to the music while you read the book.
It helps.
So we stood back and we're like, dude, this is great. I'm excited. We were hyped to talk about it. And I remember going up to you.
The interview is easier because I was kind of worried, like, what are we going to to say? Like, what if there's nothing here? What if it's not good? But yeah, we read the samples. I was like, oh, okay, this will work.
This is actually really freaking cool. And then
but
after chatting with them all and hearing all their stories and what they had plans, the one thing I was just like a little disappointed about was that there was no horror, because that's my favorite genre of comic book.
Well, and it's super hot right now. Like horror comics are in like a whole new era right now.
It's very true,
as they should be.
That's true. So we had a interesting experience with that, because after realizing that there was no horror and kind of giving them some crap about it, because you're just fans, we just want more comics. It kind of got through the grapevine. Is that the way to say that?
Sure.
It got through the grapevine. I don't know. Words.
Keep going.
We're writers, Ryan.
That's it.
Damn it. But no, it got through the grapevine that I was working on a comic book with Ben Templesmith, and Michael Calero happened to have been a huge Ben Templesmith fan, and him and Rotelli approached me and they're like, hey, we know you're shopping this comic, and I don't know how soon you were going to make it, but if you want to be part of this team, we would love to have it, and we'd love to like back it and make it happen here with Whatnot Publishing.
That's so cool. What a great feeling that must have been.
Oh, geez. It like, I had no idea that was, it was a podcast. It was a review. It was an interview, but it also was like a low key, like
job interview.
But in reverse, we kind of like were interviewing them and realizing we want to work with these people, you know? So,
yeah.
But that's how that resulted. And fast forward, I mean, geez, we're going on a year now.
It's been about a year since we went to Denver.
You know, this story began, you know, I came back home. I hit up Ryan. I'm like, dude, I think I'm gonna write a comic book, and I think do you want to write it with me?
Yep. Yes. Obviously was the answer to that question. Yes, please.
And the Crashdown started, and issue one's done. You know, we're doing the last little bits and touches of, you know, it's crossing some T's, dotting some I's, but issue 2 is about to go into the drawing phase. Issue 3 is being worked on. And yeah, it's pretty exciting. And this has definitely been the most different thing I've done in comics since starting the YouTube channel and beginning my career in comic books, doing what I've been doing. It's been a blast. I feel like I got a promotion.
I was gonna say, but what a great journey. Like what a great moment that you guys are riding high on. So very excited for you guys. I have some like rapid fire guy questions here for you guys. I want to talk a little bit about inspirations. You guys just talked about music. You talked about sometimes comics having soundtracks that go along with them, music that inspired them, stuff you might have listened to while you were creating this comic. Can you guys name like a few that you were like, oh, this was, if you're reading the book, this is what I was listening to while I wrote it? You have to answer, but I'm going to set you up a little bit here. There hasn't been a time that we've sat down and wrote where this guy doesn't put on a playlist to write to, because we're trying to capture dreadful feelings and put it on the paper. So naturally, it's like the saddest, awkward, and disturbing. You feel like you're going to get, like somebody's going to come out the closet and stab you type of music. Anyways, take over, Ryan, because this is all your fault.
Thank you.
And it helps. It does help.
It helps, man. I have
Tessa's saying the Hereditary soundtrack.
Tessa got it. That's what it is. It's the Hereditary soundtrack. It's been I think it's the best modern horror movie. We actually talked about this, all three of us, on a live stream a couple years ago about our favorite modern horror movies. Hereditary is a phenomenal film. So I got the idea while I was sitting down reading comics one day, like I want to set the mood while I'm reading. Let me put on a soundtrack. I really love soundtracks for movies. And I was currently obsessed with Hereditary at that time. So I threw on that soundtrack, and just, wouldn't you know, it's freaking great. It's an amazing soundtrack. It's also got a lot of like, oh, kind of noises in it. It's definitely best listened to by yourself with headphones on. But also, if you happen to be writing a really creepy horror comic, it's a great mood setter. But I also cannot get any work done if there's lyrics in my music. Much to Tom's chagrin. I don't think he liked listening to the scary music from the Hereditary soundtrack so much while we were working, but it does work. It makes this experience a lot better. Shout out to the composer Colin Stetson. I am determined to be his #1 listener on Spotify by the end of this year when my Spotify Wrapped comes out. Also, he did the soundtrack for The Color Out of Space.
That was on a repeat a lot.
The H.P. Lovecraft movie starring Nicolas Cage that came out in 2019, which I also love. I did not realize he did the music for that as well. He also did the music for The Menu, starring Anya Taylor-Joy, to bring this all full circle. He's a phenomenal composer who I really love. And yeah, I would recommend throw on the Color Out of Space soundtrack while you're reading Crashdown, and it will match perfectly.
Awesome. That's fantastic. A lot of people in the chat who are like saying, I need the playlist.
It's just 2 albums.
He just went and pre-ordered his issues.
Old Wolf.
I spoke to my LCS this week and let them know they put it on their radar as well. So you can do the same for your LCS.
Amazing. That means a lot. Yeah.
I'm in 2K. I mean, I've evolved. I'm evolving. So this sounds like this story has got some of my favorite like story tropes, which is obviously you have man versus nature, right?
Right.
But it sounds like inherent in that it sounds like there's some man versus self stuff going on here, man versus one another working together in, because one of the best things about Lost for me was the way in which this sort of changed them, right? Being here, being in this place, the things they were going through. Is there some of that going on in the story as well?
They actually, and spoilers, but in the third issue of our book, they find a bunker underground, and there's a dude living in it with a computer and everything.
It's like, but you don't know it, but there's a light that shines through, and it's like, wait a minute, there's been people here the whole time, and
we had this idea all by ourselves.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's like, oh my gosh, there's other people on the island, So
I already forgot what the question.
No, that doesn't happen, and that's all lost, and we're just joking. No, absolutely. That's actually one of the fun parts of putting this together has been the ideas that have spawned out of it. Because each panel, you're thinking with a different part of your brain. Think of perspective and how to push the story forward with the limited space you have in word bubbles, and we're bouncing ideas back and forth. And sometimes we'll come up with an idea that just starts a conversation. Then all of a sudden, we stand back and go, that could just be another comic book. And in the early planning, when we're scripting and coming up with all these, we had a huge list of things. And we're like, oh, what about this? What about this? We do a slasher. Do we do a monster story? Do we do are there invisible monsters, killing people? No, we can't do that. So when we had that list, there were 3 different stories that we kind of narrowed it down to. And one was this dystopian Earth type of narrative. This other was a narrative that focused on a ship, for lack of a better term, Battlestar Galactica level size ship.
Nice.
By the way, our book is called Crashdown for a reason. It was it could have been Crashdown or Hot Dog. Someone's gonna catch that.
Tom told me that.
It was one of the two. And then lastly was, hey, what if we tell a rival story? Once they land on this planet, what happens? Not about as much as the travel to get there, but more about the experience once they land, but like that initial start of the progress. So after kind of going down these rabbit holes, we decided, well, what if that is Crashdown? What if it's all 3? And that's our flashbacks and our parallel narrative storytelling and our climaxes that we're going to have. So that, yes, it's a good question, because there's going to be a narrative on Earth, but there's also a narrative on the ship, which is holding the rest of the human civilization trying to get down to this planet. And you got to send some people down first. So we're going to find out the chaos that ensues from there.
Awesome. And most futuristic space travel kind of stories have either the robots or the AI. I seem to notice a little acronym in there somewhere. What can you talk a little bit? How do you guys utilize technology? Yeah, I didn't see a lot of droids, but I do see some technology present.
That is Sadie, the character who was doing the narration in that trailer, which I loved, by the way. We did not give any direction at all on the creation of that trailer. That's all by our editor, Chalin, who dominated that thing. But that is a speech given by our robotic, I don't know if that's even the right word. She's an AI named Sadie. It is an acronym, stands for Semi-Autonomous Direct Interface Entity. And she's kind of a hybrid of certain other characters that you've seen in other projects. We kind of referred to her as like a
Cortana a little bit.
A mix between like Cortana and like Miss Minutes.
Yeah.
From Loki.
So
Nice.
There's definitely going to be, this is a 3-issue story, which is very quick.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of characters we're going to introduce, and there's only so much time, and we got to get to the monsters. We got to get to the violence and the body horror. So we're going to be introduced to a lot of people, but Sadie is definitely obviously in issue number 1, and we do have plans for her. But as far as technology goes, the idea of the humans being the human civilization coming to an end on Earth, but then being granted a chance at continuing the species somewhere else, finding another planet, it's because of this cryotech that was invented. Correct. That right there was the ingredient needed to then take this voyage because of how far this planet is. So until that technology was created, everyone's pretty much just gearing up to die. You know, people aren't
Right.
having kids. There really isn't anything going on. I mean, really, you're relying on, you know, what infrastructure exists just to get by. So technology does play a role about how we get there, but it's a very like almost primal story. This is us restarting to a degree.
Sure.
Well
There's
put.
some questions about are these oversized issues or prestige format? It's traditional comic size, from what I know, right?
You have to get magazine comic size magazine boards.
It's like a Last Ronin situation.
Oh, okay, nice.
You know?
We're kidding. We're kidding.
Absolutely joking.
No,
Yeah.
no, no, no.
Normal-
Standard
normal
size comics. Yeah.
No, you're good.
Straightforward, standard size comics, folks. Don't worry too much. This is a great question about like the inner workings of comic book creation these days. Were you guys feeling like it seemed like a real collaborative thing with you and Ben? Was there a lot of like having to work as a team? Were there a lot of hands on, or did you feel like you had a lot of freedom to do what you really wanted?
Just us.
I'm
Right.
actually a little surprised
We were
about
expecting
how much
Yeah.
we did versus everybody else. Like there's been tremendous help across the board. Without Michael Calero editing it, there would be pages wrong, just straight up misfires. People would be confused. Like he's an editor and a independent comic creator. So without him, it would have been very different. But as far as like the dialogue, the narrative, the beats, those comic booky reveals that make you step back and you know the movie 40-Year-Old Virgin with Steve Carell?
Yes.
There's a shot where he's like, what do you typically do in the day? And he's playing his trombone, but then he's eating food, he's watching cartoons, and he's like, you know, cleaning his action figures, and he's in bed reading a Superman comic, and he's just like, Superman. Like he's just having that geeky moment with himself. That comic book moment, those beats that we had to hit, largely we were hit with, that was a damn good idea. And I'm thinking, dude, are they just telling us it's good? And we shared this with other people, you know, along the way, because I wanted to make sure that outside of our team, I was getting feedback. And every time that we shared this portion of the story where something was revealed, because we wanted just to gauge their interest, I've been hit with, didn't see that coming. And that is like
That was a direct
super
note
disturbing.
left by our editor at the end of the issue 2 script. A little bit of a tease, but he left us a little note on the side. Was like, "Whoa, didn't see that coming. That was cool."
Yeah.
And
So
like,
Nice.
little things like that make me feel like, okay, I think we're supposed to be doing this, Ryan.
I've been waiting this whole time for us to submit the script and for our editor just to say like, we'll call you. We'll give you a call. We got
to cut.
Work.
Well, dude,
We were way wrong.
true story. When we first had conversations with this editorial team, and you know, obviously my biggest concern is that I don't want to put out something that I'm not going to be proud of. I have to do right by the community who's going to support it. So I want to be really freaking good. I want a great comic book. And if I need help, we're going to need help. I don't know though, because I've never done this before. And the conversations were like, hey, we have an editorial team. We're here to help you. And if you did 6 pages of nonsense dialogue that isn't needed, we're going to tell you to redo it.
Right.
So we went in there ready to just have stuff shaken up. And there was some things that we had to shake. There were some things that were wrong, and we're like, oh, that is kind of confusing. And, you know, but what was helpful though is like Ben going, hey, we're going to change the hair color. That's going to make this whole scene better, because then we can really see who these people are, because the art style is different. It's kind of hard to follow if there's a bunch of people in the room and you have the same hair color. Like little things like that we can lean on the artist to change the perspective of the room, or alter how we are introduced to a character by putting them on screen a little bit louder and more up front. And now you can see it visually, putting the name in the bottom corner, like stuff that you don't think of that's so important. Those are the parts that I would say were the biggest editing assists that we've had. But as far as like the overall narrative, the big parts of it where we're like, oh, we're going to get people to stop reading right here, and they're going to go, oh shoot, that was something. Like I'm proud to say that Ryan, we did that.
That's us.
We did that.
Yeah.
Nice.
We love Ben, but we handed him a script and was like, please make this work. And he improved on certain areas, but there wasn't a lot of like negative critique at all. I'm actually shocked at how much he was supportive of the things we did. And he even told us so pretty directly a month or 2 ago. It felt good. It felt good to hear that positive feedback from him, especially because he knows what the hell he's doing.
Well, I just say, when you have somebody that you respect who has clearly proven their skill, and when they're able to give you that kind of feedback, that's got to be super rewarding, right?
After a certain amount of time, it's actually like, it's definitely rewarding, and it feels good in that moment. But like the grind is so hard to do this. We basically took on a part-time job while we do our job. you're kind of just like working so much and so deep in the creative that those moments kind of hit you by surprise, and you have to kind of recognize like, oh, wait a minute, that was like a really nice thing that was just said, and we need to stand back and go, we're doing something right. But like sometimes that doesn't happen until days after. Sometimes we're like, okay, good, phew, and you're thinking about the next pages in the panels. And I think that's and I don't know, I'm hoping hopefully it's a like admission that we're like really putting our all into it, you know.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna do another rapid fire this time. We're gonna talk movies this time. We're looking for movies that you feel like maybe spiritually, genetically relate in some way. I know I heard you mention Alien a little bit ago,
Sure.
and I know that sci-fi, big part of this as well. So, are there movies that in your head you feel like, I don't know, somehow this feels like it's in the same mind part of my brain as Crashdown?
There's one. There's a big
I can
one.
shoot out like 4 or 5.
I have
now.
one big one.
Yeah.
You
go first, and then I'll
Pandorum.
okay, that was on
Pandorum
the list.
would be my number one most like the thing that inspired me to go this direction with the story, because I was told, shout out to, I think it was Kevin McGuire. We were in Portland. He's done JLA. He actually he's done a variant for us for issue 2. We were chatting with Ben, and I hadn't started the process yet, and I was struggling. Getting rolling. I was nervous, and nerves were getting to me. I was kind of fumbling, like, I don't know if this is gonna be like, I just didn't want to make a mistake. I didn't want to do something I wasn't proud of. And he had told me to like write the movie or write the comic that I wish there was a movie of. And I remember, and the first thing I thought of was in Pandorum. Spoiler, but the movie's old as hell, and it's amazing. It's one of the most underrated sci-fi movies, horror movies that are out there. But the movie ends with them arriving at a planet. It's like they made their journey. Like, spoiler, right?
It's a similar kind of like recolonize a planet and in the solar system type story.
But the movie ends there. It's beautiful. It's a
It
great
ends when
film.
they get there, like, hooray, we made it.
Yeah. So I always
The
thought,
end.
man, this movie could have started with that. So, and that's been in my head since I saw the movie I think it's over a decade ago.
Like 15 years old, I think.
It's really old. I saw that a long time ago. So that's been in my head for a long time. So like when he said that, it just kind of sparked that idea. Chatting with Donnie Cates over in where was that? C2E2 in Chicago. We were eating like freaking White Castle, the streets of Chicago, and I'm chilling with Donnie Cates and Dinesh, and he's just riffing about how much
Event Horizon.
Horizon messed him up as a kid. So then I'm thinking like, yeah, we're already like in the process of writing this story, but like, yeah, like there's so many scary things about being isolated on a ship in space. So like, there's been like little things that have added to kind of influence our direction over time. And what's nice is that a lot of that influence has been from people I really respect in this very industry.
I love it. Ryan,
Yeah, Norman
you want to add a
Reedus
few?
is in Pandorum. Yeah, good.
No, it is. Yeah, Norman's
is
in
him.
that. Yeah, absolutely.
I forgot about that.
Shout out.
He was briefly in that movie. This would have been a couple years before Walking Dead, too.
Yeah.
Man, okay.
What other movies? I just named, I think,
You
a few.
You named 2. We already discussed Lost for sure. I think is probably the biggest like source of DNA, at least for me in this story. Like there's a lot of elements of Lost in here. We mentioned Hereditary earlier, and there's not a lot of like direct hereditary relations, but I think in the sense, one of the things I wanted to channel most with this comic was when we were writing a lot back and forth, I would always bring it back to like, what would this be like if it were Hereditary?
Mm-hmm.
And like, how can we make this movie or this comic book feel a little more elevated,
Yes.
you know, and less kind of cheesy and shocking in your face and stuff. And Hereditary has been like an obsession of mine over the last few years.
Same.
Because it works on the surface as a really creepy kind of culty horror, family drama, ghost story, horror stuff. But also the more you watch it, the more you catch. And every time I rewatch that movie, I spot something somehow that I did not catch the first few times. And it's just so intelligently constructed and layered. And that mentality really stuck with me. And I wanted to make sure that when we worked on this comic book that we kind of approached it with a similar respect, I think. And Hereditary is in the DNA of this story, also musically, which we talked about before. I want to mention The Ruins. I think that's another gigantic influence on this.
I'm glad you mentioned that for sure.
Yeah. That one has a lot of really creepy body horror elements. And again, a lot of the common threads in this are like stories about people stuck in a place that's not really welcoming to them. And the kind of inherent, the feeling of like, we can do this. We deserve to be here. The Ruins did that. It was more of like white Americans going to a third world country and like traipsing all over this ancient ruins and be like, oh, this is fine. We're allowed to be here. We're on vacation. And it doesn't go well for them. And we kind of have a similar vibe with that with our comic book, like in a galactic sense, I guess.
Awesome.
Also the Mist. I mentioned the Mist.
A little bit too.
That's another big one.
Yeah.
Again, you got people trapped in a grocery store during like a freaky interdimensional kind of apocalypse. There's a lot.
Shout out to Dylan's Horror Show. He just did like a 2-hour breakdown of The Mist and talked about the black and white version and all that just last Saturday night. Great breakdown. DHS. You guys should check him out for sure. Carrie asks.
We did an interview with him a while ago.
Yes, we did. Carrie mentions The Thing because she's in her mind lost Alien, The Thing, John Carpenter's Thing.
Absolutely. There's a bit of that, and then also with Ben Templesmith on it, it's like there was one in the early days of us kind of coming up with concepts and stuff. You know, part of the process whenever I take on something new, something I've never done, I do a hell of a lot of research. I try to figure out like, hey, who do I know that does this well, and just pick their brain. So I picked a bunch of writers' brains and I picked a bunch of artists' brains. And one of the things with Ben, I was chatting with about like making characters and any tips he had, because this guy writes indie comics like just he cranks them out. He's got it. He just goes. It's a fascinating thing because it's like Jack Kirby stories where you hear like, oh, it's the Marvel method. You get like a paragraph and then he just starts and he just doesn't stop. It's like he had a script in his brain, but there was no script. He just on the fly was like, no, Cap looks best like this. And then he just starts drawing the hand and he starts drawing this thing back here and then he starts drawing the pain over here. And it's like, he puts it together in pieces in front of you. Ben is kind of similar in that he just goes. He just has those moments that sometimes Ryan and I would take hours to come up with. He's just like, wham, bam, done. And it's way better than anything we could have thought of. So, and it's because he's been doing it so long and he knows his reach as far as his creative ability. So like one of the things is like, how would you draw? Because the initial stuff that I was about to write was more sci-fi rather than horror. This was before Ryan. As soon as I had Ryan on board, I knew I could do the horror though, because I needed help with it. And we would be able to come up with something good. But the initial run was like, oh, maybe I can do like a cool sci-fi Trekker type of thing. And maybe there's like a sidekick or something. I was thinking of like a fun creature or something like that. And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, help me make this sidekick. And I'll never forget it. He said something like, you know, I'm going to paraphrase, but it's the same. He's like, oh, it's a turtle with dinosaur arms and giraffe legs that has a cape and a gun. It was just like that. And he said it, called it a name. And I'm like, he did it off the cuff like that. And I'm like, oh, that's so wild. But then it also reworked how I thought about writing a comic book that he would draw. Because what he wants to draw is something wild, something that it's going to be hard for you to think about what it is, but he's going to figure it out. Just like Jack Kirby would make a entire room of computers and schematics that look like the levers will work and that's going to go to this tube and to this screen, but it's all just like, it's all fantasy, you know?
Well, that's got to get his creative energies going too. When he's like, no, I'm going to do something way out there and people have never done this before.
There you go.
I wanted to show off. There's a bunch of covers that you guys have just recently been highlighting. People can purchase. So I've got a few of them set here. Of course, the cover A, absolute. I'm going to cover up Ryan because, you know, whatever. Butch, and look, Butch is now.
You're covering up Butch, but that's fine. Go ahead.
Ben's cover A, absolutely fantastic, amazing. I chose for my background this because, come on, guys.
David Mack.
It's beautiful.
You got David Mack doing and that's got to be like one of the big rewards. Holy cow. Talk about one of the just most down-to-earth, amazingly talented, friendly people in comics. Like, holy cow.
Yeah, and we were able to get him on a open to order cover that people can get for $4 or whatever the MSRP is. I think it's $4.
And I think he's even got a black background variant that I didn't load, right? Like there's an alternate variant.
That's going to be the one in, I believe it's 200.
That's a ratio. Yeah. This one anyone can get. And I kind of like the white one better personally.
Just don't jinx it, right?
Personal preference, but
then you got, of course, Johnny Desjardins. Holy cow. Those tentacle fans are going to be like, this is the one I want.
Yeah, we had to have at least one bondage cover.
That's a good point too.
Right?
We also specifically had to give our tentacles little teethies, little sharp pokey guys there on the ends. just to make them a little more creepy.
Oh, I
I'll
love
also
this
say these
cover.
aren't the only tentacles in Crashdown. You know, I don't want to reveal too much, but it's a
Shut
theme.
up, Tom.
It's a
Shut up,
theme.
Tom.
It's a theme, Ryan.
Ah,
All right, well, we'll shut up.
I don't know this artist Parsons. You guys, but this the going under the water part here with the lightning in the background. I was like, oh dang, that's freaky.
that's Casey Parsons. That is my personal favorite of all the variants.
Yeah, this
for
has
issue
been
one.
a fan favorite for sure.
I love this one.
Gorgeous. And I love
Scary.
the of course the needles in the tentacles right towards her the glass on her face.
The one's
So
already latched onto her mask too, on her helmet there down there.
Yep.
I love that one.
love it. Zoo Orzo. I got a Zoo Orzo cover. The color work on this was like, oh man, I love it. It's like so simple on her face, but then the red tentacles.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been doing a lot of work with Zoo Orzu in the last 6 months. She actually did 6 covers for the Something is Killing the Children arc and Book of Slaughter for us. Excuse me. The Red Bull. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, she did so many covers for us that when this happened, I'm like, oh, it would be such a privilege to keep things going because she's such a fantastic artist and very, very different, you know?
Right.
I think
And
this
that-
one's a ratio as well.
I just love a good close-up cover too. Like when you get right in it. That's so badass. I just see we got Jim Mafood here.
Jim Mafood.
There you go.
Look at
Yeah.
that.
Another legend.
Spicy cover. This is the spicy cover for me. This is the saucy cover.
Yeah, you know, you have Jim Mafood draw in Jim Mafood's way, and
Right.
whatever comes out, it's a privilege. It's like it's so different. It's a beautiful, but also you can see the horror behind her, you know?
And then somebody in the chat mentioned it because obviously a good movie homage cover. Like, come on, guys, Event Horizon cover. Get out.
Yo, Donnie Cates, we did that for you.
Dude, so freaking cool. Absolutely. I saw this cover. I was like, dang, I need to find a way to get this. That is a fantastic cover.
Yeah, I can't believe we got that approved. That is like, it's not,
It's kind of perfect.
but it looks very
It's-
similar to another actress that we can't talk about.
I feel like the guy looks like Chris Evans too. I don't know if that's just me.
I'm not saying that either. I'm not saying anything. These are original characters. They just look fantastic and beautiful.
If AWA can get away with it in Fourth Man, where they got all
you.
those
Yeah,
actors, I mean,
thank
come
you.
on, you guys aren't going
Al
that far.
Cateau in Red Zone. You
I mean,
know?
I mean, exactly. I read Red Zone, and I'm like, I know what actor that is. Like,
Yep.
right there.
Vincent Cassell. We know.
So those stop being. So everybody, make sure you there's links down below. You guys can cruise over to everybody's social media, all these different places. But of course, Previews World's got all this stuff up there. You can send links to your LCS. You can let them know. The Previews code is scrolling across the bottom here. So if you need that number for the cover A, this is the cover A code, and that'll get you kind of started on the whole thing. And then but you can go to Previews World, search Crashdown, and you'll find all the stuff you need.
We appreciate it. You know, we put a lot of work into this, and the main thing was that we wanted to make something just awesome for the community and the members who supported us for so long. And we really went out, and I think we made something cool.
I wanted to make something cool for myself.
Yeah, it's all
I
right.
don't know about
Ryan's
you,
selfish.
But
so.
when we sat down and started doing this, I was like, yeah, whatever. But like, I want to write something that like I read the catalog like an insane person. I go through
Yeah,
every book, I
that's
read every
true.
description, and I
That's
wanted
very
it to be something like I want to read this. Like
Yes.
I would want to read a book that's like Lost meets Alien. That's how we've been marketing it. And like, yes, please sign me up. That's something I want to read. I just so happen to be co-writing it.
Well, we got a friend of both of our channels here in the chat. We got Mr. Bueller himself living his best
Bubes.
van life. What's going on? He said, wanted to say something really fast. Seeing this announced at C2E2 and watching Tom and his dad in the audience and recognizing how proud he was of his son. That was a great moment. Congrats to you both.
Oh, Bueller. It was awesome. You know what? He was actually one of the only people who joined us at that announcement release because it was a heavy metal announcement that isn't happening anymore, by the way. So we debuted our book in a heavy metal sampler that was supposed to launch Crashdown, but things didn't work out with heavy metal and Whatnot Publishing. I don't know the details of it, but basically we're just doing a standard release. So those samplers that we have are kind of a unique situation because it's marketing something that isn't actually happening anymore. But we did a announcement during the heavy metal panel, and it was at the same time as Chris Pratt doing his panel. So there's very few people there. But my dad was there, which was really cool. Ben was there. I got to
That's
announce it on
awesome.
stage. We had a Crashdown promo that we put together, and yeah, it was cool because Bueller was there. He went out of his way to make sure that he was present throughout the whole thing, and I really appreciate that, brother.
Comic Pops has got to be one of the people that's highest on my list of people I want to meet. And I remember my wife does not watch a lot of comic book YouTube, but she will watch when your dad's telling anecdotes of the old days, when your dad's driving in his car on Instagram and just doing live streams. Like, she will watch that because your dad is he's awesome, man. He's
coming back.
I keep telling you got to get your dad on this channel because like there's something about him that just works, and like people love the hell out of your dad. He's very likable. He's like all of our dad.
It's true.
Absolutely. Yeah. And plus, like, what an epic like history in comics that he's got, and a huge amount of knowledge and love for this industry. Like, one of a kind. Okay, I want to jump over to another quick rapid fire round with you guys. We've talked music, we've talked movies. I know you guys read a ton of books. I know you're big indie comics fans. I know you guys have done a bunch of great breakdowns on the channel over there. Are there books that you felt like were encouraging to you, inspiring to you, pushing you, making you feel like I want it to be as good as, or something like this? And it doesn't have to be comics, of course. You can be, if there's a novel, if there's a short story, whatever.
I got a couple. What do you think?
I also have a couple.
Well, you go
I
first.
hope we don't have the same. The first one that comes to mind is Unearth.
That was one of my ones. Damn it, Ryan.
Yep.
Unearth is fantastic.
10-issue horror miniseries from Image. It's got some similar vibes with The Ruins, about a group of scientists who explore this weird stuff they find under the ground that's like mutating people. It's a creepy body horror comic with some really cool art in there that really stuck with me. So that's definitely part of Crashdown as well, somewhere in there.
All right, my turn.
Your turn, baby.
My turn. All right. Well, I mean, 30 Days a Night obviously is it's like kind of I'll say that one because I have to say it. It's 3 issues because it's 30 Days a Night. It's 3 issues because of Ben Temple-Smith. He made one of the greatest modern horror comics of all time. It's been referenced in multiple interviews I've done with other creators as a just opinion they had that they shared without me even prompting the question. You know, Brian Pulido straight up said, 30 Days a Night, yeah, as a movie and comic reference, you know, Steve Niles' goodness. We wanted to do a 3-issue series, kind of paying tribute to that fantastic work that he did. Also, I would say the recount, and not necessarily for the political horror side of that book or the violence per se, but the speed in which things happen over the course of a few amount of issues. There was something that really like sunk in with that. It eats what feeds it, which is another one. Which, by the way, that creative team writes Liquid Kill, which is a brand new Whatnot publishing series. I haven't gotten my hands on it yet, but it's on order for me. And
I'm read the first 3 the other day. It's a good one.
They're one of the best like co-writers doing it, and I definitely took some inspiration from them. But being able to write like a really fast-paced, a moment in time horror story is something that was just so gripping to me. 30 Days a Night covers 30 days in 3 issues. Recount is like a day and a half in 3 issues. Eats What Feeds It. It's a little bit more time, but 3 issues goes really freaking quick, especially with the first issue being like the first few hours of this gentleman arriving at a house he's going to help out doing cleaning at. That sexy homeowner there, so it's and by the way, my first Ben Temple-Smith variant I ever did was It Eats What Feeds It. So like,
and that's what got me to read it. It Eats What Feeds It was I got that variant, and then I was like, I gotta hunt down these other issues. This is so gripping. It's so intense. It's so spooky, but not like just graphic. It eats away at your brain as you read it. So intense.
There we go.
I also got to mention Nice House on the Lake.
Yeah.
James Tynion in general.
We almost made a character look like James Tynion because of how much he's inspired us just in general. I don't think I actually wanted to write a comic book as much as I do now because of any other writer. I think
he's my favorite writer right now.
Yeah. That gentleman is
inspirational.
Very, very, very talented. And his work was so good that he makes me want to write.
Something about that book in particular, though, about, again, the idea of people being stuck in a confined space and watching their relationships and how they adapt to their not so great circumstances over a course of time. That really kind of stuck with me. I was hoping we would get to do an homage cover to that first issue of Nice House.
I'm not done yet, man. We're gonna do it.
I want to see an homage because I think we could make a good one with someone's head in the water with some stuff
Skulls
going
and
on
all
in the
that.
background. Yep.
I'll literally make it happen tonight. It has to be.
You got a lot of people cheering for you guys in the chat. So shout out
Thank
to
you,
all
man.
you guys who have been so supportive. That makes it the comic book community and not just a bunch of schmoes on YouTube. Appreciate all of you guys big time.
Well, I'm a schmo. I'll
Lots.
be a
Well, I
schmo
mean,
too.
yeah, sure, probably. Lots of people loving the tentacles, needing more tentacles. All right, I need some advice. We're talking horror. We're talking great books for kids. My girls are horror fans now. They're getting into horror. They've finished Stranger Things. Kate has started watching the Scream movies. I need recommendations of horror movies to get kids going, to get kids started. And I say kids, I got teens.
You said movies or comics or both?
Movies. Hey, I haven't tried comics with them for horror yet. They've read all the Stranger Things, the Dark Horse books that they've been releasing.
I would have suggested those.
Yeah, Kate. Every time a new trade drops, that's what I got to get for her. So, what would you recommend for them to be watching when it comes to horror?
Remind me their ages again, because they grew up way too fast.
I got 15 and almost 13.
Wow,
but they've watched
they were like
Stranger
babies when I
Things.
met them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know.
What the heck happened, John?
I know.
We're getting
I'll be
old.
driving soon.
They've watched Lost. We did Lost Boys this last weekend. They did that one. Not that lighter horror, but still, it's in the realm.
They're ahead of me.
Have they watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer yet?
No,
I haven't.
Okay, so there you go. That's the first thing. It's a good level of like jump scares and some more. I wouldn't even call it like it ages pretty well. There's some things in there that are kind of like, I don't know, but like overall, I would say it's definitely safe and
well, I mean, they've seen Firefly, which is obviously
then you're good.
It's Whedon-esque, right?
So that's good. So
yes, I am upset that Kate watched horror movies without me. Yes, I am a little bitter.
I'm upset too, by the way. I feel like I should have been involved in this somehow remotely.
They made you watch Frozen 2.
I did. I got to watch Frozen 2. I haven't seen Frozen 1. I was very confused. Oh man.
What other recommendations?
I'm glad she's watching Scream, although I think you mentioned to me that she hasn't seen a lot of the movies that inspired Scream.
Yeah,
we were kind of influenced.
I feel like she skipped to the satire without getting the substance that would go in front of it. So I know, like the original Halloween, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, these movies are on the list for me because you kind of need that, in my opinion, to get the most out. She doesn't know who the Scream Queen is in that scene when they're talking about Jamie Lee Curtis. If you haven't seen any of her movies, you're missing out. But I mean, she's read and seen the new versions of It and read the book It.
Okay. That's
Kate's read Carrie. She's read Carrie, hasn't seen the movie yet.
Yeah, Carrie's a good one.
I was exactly her age when I first fell in love hardcore with Stephen King and just devoured all that I could. So I guess that's a good, general suggestion, obviously, but everything I'm thinking of is I think too dark.
I know.
I'm trying to comfortably recommend.
So
Hereditary to a teenager.
Don't worry. I'm going to filter it. I'm not just going to throw them right in front of it the second you say it. Don't worry.
Okay, here you go.
I'm not going to shred into you guys on Instagram. Like, what? You told me to watch this. What the heck? I'm asking for horror recommendation.
My dad would let me watch so many things I shouldn't have watched. I would read Hellblazer with him when we were camping, this
is what I got to watch. I got to make comic pops ask this question.
He's reading these Swamp Thing and Vertigo titles as we're going, okay, what do I read JLA, Dad? It's like, all right, yeah, you go. We got to read Constantine first. It was like that growing up. And that's pretty mature stuff. And then movies, same thing. It all depends. But a lot of the big influences for me, I mean, I was watching Blair Witch at that age, and that changed how I viewed horror forever. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And I got a funny story about that one too, because that movie came out and I don't know if they're not familiar with it, you can try this one.
Oh, that's true. Pretend
pretend that it
real.
Just say, hey, I gotta play you this. This is something that was discovered when this came out. This is how it was marketed. This film was found, and this was the first real found footage
Tom
marketed
found footage, by the way. He's weirdly obsessed with it.
That's my favorite. It's one of my favorite horror genres.
Well, I remember we got together. We talked a lot about Creep.
That's a good one.
Those movies.
Oh, yeah, dude.
My favorite horror movie of all time is Rosemary's Baby, but I don't know how well that'll go over.
Yeah, I don't think we're at that level of Exorcist. I think they like slasher because it's so ridiculous.
Right.
There's like the slasher genre, I think, can be so over the top that you don't necessarily feel like it could happen to you.
I wish you guys could see Butch right now. He's being the most adorable little
Yeah,
precious guy.
he needs
right,
it so
right
bad.
here.
He's
People in the chat are like, I'm here for Butch.
Yeah, he's here for us.
He's the best cat in the
He's
world.
the best guy in the whole world.
He's just the best guy.
Oh,
Lots of great comments in the chat too. I appreciate all you guys. Yeah, no Exorcist. We're not ready for Exorcist.
it's also hey, hi. It's also Exorcist is kind of it's great, but like I feel like it's unfairly considered the best horror movie of all time. I don't think it's that good.
It's Hereditary. It's the best film ever made.
I also don't think Hereditary is that good either. It's my
Yeah.
favorite modern horror movie.
Says the guy who had to watch it 5 times to get it.
Oh yeah, no, I'll watch the movie every single day if I could get away with it.
No, okay, no joke. So we did that interview with you, and we did the round robin of like favorite horror movies, and you guys all said Hereditary. I'd never seen it at that point. I would since seen the movie. I've seen it like 30 times now. Like it's my favorite movie I've ever seen. And I told Ryan, I'm like, dude, the cinematography is outstanding, and the bedroom scene with Paimon in the possession in the corner of the room, it changed. It's I don't think I've ever been so scared in that moment. And I was like an adult freaking out on the couch. And he goes, what do you mean? And I'm like, dude, the bedroom scene where she's on the wall. And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about.
You watch that movie, you see.
He had to watch it again to see the best part of the movie. So
every time you catch new stuff. However, Hereditary is just a modern update of Rosemary's Baby.
And which is why it's better.
Just saying, Rosemary's Baby did it first. Also based off a book too, which is also really good.
Yeah, I'm trying to like rack my brain for other horror movies to recommend.
Isn't that Richard Donner? I think it's Richard Donner, right?
Unfortunately, Rosemary's
Baby.
Baby.
No, that's Omen.
No, unfortunately, Rosemary's Baby is Roman Polanski.
Polanski, that's where it's at. Sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately. But
So
it's a great movie.
At the top of this whole thing, you guys mentioned that Crashdown is 3 issues, so it's coming this summer. Do you? This is just really like a writer question for you guys. Like, obviously, you have a lot of other stories in this universe that you want to look at, but do you feel like you'd rather do something totally different next, or if given the chance, if Whatnot comes to you after the first issue does well, which I hope it does, and I hope everybody clicks the link, but
that's on you guys.
If they come to you and they say, do you want to do a sequel or do you want to do something totally different? Like, what would you guys prefer?
Oh, for sure. We're going to keep going with Crashdown for a bit. At first we weren't sure. At first we were thinking about doing one shots and like going to ice cream.
You answered that first because my answer is definitely more Crashdown.
No, yeah. I by the end of it, we're already like mapping out a one shot after issue 3. And we have ideas for volume 2 already and a one shot. And we're also kind of building kind of a overall project around how we're releasing and what we're releasing. We're going to get weird with it. And it's just over time, we're just like, it'd be really cool to like go to this part of the story, go to this, this moment in time, maybe tell it from a different perspective. So, we have all these ideas for characters we want to introduce, and we have such a huge canvas that is ready to be painted on.
One of the things I love most about Lost is you get to watch a scene play out, and then maybe a season later, you get to suddenly get introduced to a brand new character, and you see them watching a scene you saw play out like a year ago. And suddenly you get a whole different perspective on something you're already familiar with. And that's going to happen too with Crashdown. We've already got like crazy ideas for ways to spin this off and expand the universe. So that's coming.
But we also have other genres of horror that we're interested in. I'm mostly focused right now on horror and sci-fi.
I have no desire to write anything other than horror.
It's really like, I don't either. It's the only thing I thought about. It's the only thing I think about as it pertains to the creative. It's the ideas that I have. Whenever I'm watching something and I'm looking at it through a creative lens, I'm thinking about how do I make that messed up? It's the first thing I think of. I'm like, oh, wow. What if that person we just introduced to you died horribly in this moment? Like, what would be a crazy way for them to go? Like, it's weird stuff. But like when you're in that mindset, it's like, man, I just want to I want to offer that exciting feeling of being able to offer a level of escapism in the pages. But with the beauty of horror for me is the lingering effect you have. We can talk about Hereditary being so good because it was impactful, so much to the point we want to rewatch it. There's a lot of movies where you watch it once and you're good. It was a good experience. And hey, it was funny. It was whatever. It was action packed. Maybe you want to watch it again, throw it on. But like with horror movies, I find myself just going, I want to watch the ending of the ending of Blair Witch again, or the ending of Blair Witch the remake again, or Evil Dead. You know, I just went and saw that 2 nights ago. You know, and it's like there's what's the beauty about horror, and this is just my bias with it, but I really don't have a disdain or dislike for any horror, except for maybe like comedic horror is not my favorite.
Evil Dead, man. I'm a snob. I'm a film snob.
But the new Evil Dead, the remakes are not like that. Though.
Sure, I've heard a lot of not good things about the brand new one. By the way, I've heard everyone I've heard said they didn't really care for it that much. So I feel vindicated in passing. You invited me to go see it with you.
I tried to get you to go to see it twice.
I was hanging out with John. Actually, we were live on YouTube the other day. I was like, actually, I'm hanging out with other people that I like more than you.
And I'm like, dude, okay. And then I wasn't gonna go, and I decided it was like 8 o'clock. I'm like, I want to see this movie. So I text him again. You sure you don't want to go? I'll buy you a ticket. He's like, no, thank you. But anyways, it's like some of the crappiest horror movies, you know, on whatever spectrum you want to use for that. It's like I always find something memorable in it. One of my favorite movies of all time is the Paranormal Activity series, and I can name cinematography in every single one, all the way up to the last one. I think it was number 6 or 7, whatever. I think there's 6 of them, maybe 7. I
stopped using numbers.
Yeah, but each one has moments that are just 2 minutes long, 1 minute long that I remember. And I remember the scare. It still scares me. I'll put it on just for those moments. So it's like I can wait through maybe sometimes bad acting, or, you know, maybe bad kid acting, or
no, that franchise is better than people give it credit for. You helped turn me around on Paranormal Activity for a specific franchise.
Well, I think for me at least, like obviously horror is one large genre, but it has so many subgenres in it, right? So many eras that maybe were more psychological in the Hitchcock era, or whether you got into the slasher era. And I think you can find really entertaining stuff in each one of those subgenres, but maybe one of them is not for you. Like I'm not a big camp fan. So when movies veer into that like campiness, I think Sam Raimi is one of the only guys that pulls it off for me. Like Sam Raimi can do it. Like I watch Army of Darkness and I think it's freaking hilarious. But I think for the most part, once movies veer into camp, I struggle. But all the other genres, I can always find something to enjoy out of it for sure. Well, we got a super chat from Toby. It would be meta when Tom reports on the #1 hottest comic in the world, and it's Crashdown. And then JP has to eat crow.
Who's JP?
JP has a channel, JP Budget Collecting.
JP's Budget Collecting. Yeah.
He does the 6-month look back at your list and the CBSI list, and he looks to see where those books are 6 months later. So there you go.
That would be an interesting one, because like I don't think we could ever put it on our list. I don't think that's a thing. I'll definitely admit if we get on the trending 20, which is a huge accomplishment. Yeah. Something that like that right there will be a sign of like,
we'll have to take it off the top 10 and then just do like, by the way.
Yeah. Because we pick the 10 books we're going to talk about every week
out of the bigger list.
Out of a larger list of 20. So like if our book's on the trending 20, that means there's a book that we're not talking about. Right. It's also trending. So I'd rather talk about that before we put our book on there. But we will definitely be loud if we make it on the trending 20 with our book. That would be a crazy accomplishment.
That would be so cool.
That would be cool. I did see Circumstances actually yesterday mentioned JP's 6-month look back. He mentioned Geiger #1 was on the list 6 months ago.
Dude,
like that shouldn't be cold. That book should not be cold. And that's like, we've talked about it a lot on this video. Like, you know, you can buy something when it's hot if you want, but like it might be smarter to, you know, strategize a little more. And I think Geiger is like a perfect example of something that is going to come out and it is going to be a lot of fun.
And I heard that his Junkyard Joe is just as good as well. I heard great things about that.
I like that a lot better than Geiger. That's what I hear. Junkyard Joe was fantastic.
And that's one I'm waiting for trade to read. I want to read that one.
Get on it.
It's like the comic within the world. Yeah.
But it goes into more than that. Yeah.
But what an inception moment, right? When you guys, if this book gets that successful, what an inception moment. I love it. We're going to play the trailer again one more time, but I want to do a giveaway as well. So what I'm going to do is when the book comes out, I'm going to buy extra copies and I'm going to give one away to somebody who wins right now. All you got to do in the chat is type in #Crashdown. I'm going to randomize the list of those in the chat. So just start typing it in the chat. You only need to type it once. Crashdown's one word. So #Crashdown, and I'll randomize all of those. Let me share that screen here. Where are we at? Ugh. So, but I'll put together a little mystery box for folks. Throw in some other goodies, some trades and such. Make sure that everybody's
John's got good goodies. Taste. Yeah, you'll get a good except for X-Men. John's got good taste.
There it is. So we're going to do hashtag Crashdown. Let me start collecting comments. I already got 11 people. Look at you guys. So quick on the draw. I love it. So whoever wins, just chat with me on Instagram, and I'll make sure I got all your info so that when the book comes, beginning of July, I'll get an extra copy for you. You tell me what cover you want me to snag for you. As long as it's not a ratio variant, I'll snag what you like, and then we'll throw it in a box with a bunch of other goodies. Marcus says, show me the loot. Give me the loot. You always want the loot. So many awesome people in the chat. Much appreciated all of you guys coming and joining and supporting. And again, all the links, all the information's down below, but I really recommend talk to your LCS owner, let them know, get them aware of this book so that they order a few copies, because they'll have them for their other customers that come in. If they're aware of it, then at least other people will be aware of it as well.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be just kind of putting out there, and you can let your LCSs know. Anyone who supports Crashdown, we're going to definitely support them as well. So if there's ever, if there's Crashdown in the store, let them know. Post it on Insta, tag us, me on Comic Tom 101 on Insta. We're getting a Crashdown Instagram launched here pretty soon as well. But I'm definitely going to be doing the grind and introducing a lot of the supporters of this on our channels, and do whatever I can to help push people to go to LCSs and support their shop.
Nice. Because honestly, that's part of what this is for me, is we're supporting indie comic creators, of course, indie publishers, but then those shops, getting them in the loop as well, I think is better for everybody. I got 15 entries out of 19 folks. I think we're ready to draw a winner here. Another super chat. Izzyverse says, trending 10, Comic-Con and Fire Guy Ryan. Thank you, Izzy.
Thank you,
Much
Izzy.
appreciated, sir. So let's draw a winner here. Let's scramble this up and see who we get. Congrats to the winner we got. Old Wolf coming up 2-3 times. John Stout.
Hey.
What is up, John? Applause for you, sir. So, John, hit me up on Instagram so that I got your information. And then when you let me know what cover you like, we showed a ton, but you can go on Previews World and scroll through the covers that you like there and let me know which one you like the most. And I'll make sure I add an extra copy of that to my pull list when the book comes around. Also,
thanks for being such a constant supporter, by the way, John Stout. I've seen your name for years.
Yeah, in chats everywhere you go. Absolutely. So guys, just huge thank you for taking the time to chat about this book. I'm so excited for you guys. This is a big event. Your first published work. Absolutely amazing, man.
I appreciate you. Thanks for being open to us coming on the show. This is the first interview that we've had since the offering in Previews was launched. So yeah, if anyone wants to support what we've been doing over the years, now is the best time. Hit up your LCS, go to Previews, put your orders in. If you go to a convention that I'm at, look for me. I would love to see you. Thank you in person. And thank you, John, for having us, of course, and being a supporter for so long, a valued member of our team out here. And thank you for letting us premiere our first trailer of our first comic we wrote.
And we're gonna play it again right now. Again, the links are all down below. This is the wrap up. I'm gonna play the trailer and then we're gonna log out. So thank you to you guys in the chat. Thank you to Ryan. Thank you to Tom. And let's get ready for some Crashdown.
Crashdown.
Beyond our home on Earth is now possible thanks to our galactic research scouting team and advancements in suspended animation and cryotechnology. With the sun's demise imminent, we are now 72 hours from departure for planet Empyrean. With a 95% chance for Earth-like conditions, your efforts will be vital for the successful continuation of our species. On behalf of the entire human race, we here at Apollo Industries thank you for your service. With the dramatic increase in solar rays of radiation, 95% chance for Earth-like conditions. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Thank you.